Welcome to another episode of Rusty Frangipani's The Impossibility of Education. In episodes 1 and 3, we talk about the domestication of students and how, when order is forced artificially in the classroom, students are domesticated. And as a result, they lose their instincts of creativity and what makes them human. In episodes 2 and 4, we talk about ludic fallacy in the classroom, ludic coming from the word ludus, which is games in Latin. What it means is that, like games that are well defined with fixed rules and predetermined outcome, however, real life is unlike games. Real life is ill-defined, there are no fixed rules, and we do not quite know what the eventual outcome is going to be. And so when students have spent extended amount of time in schools, in formal education, in the classroom, and being exposed to predetermined outcomes that they pursue when they have graduated and they move into real life, they realize that they are unable to adapt. In many ways, you can say that they are unable to transfer their learning from the classroom into real life. And very often we see that as a divide, a dichotomy between theory and practice, when in actual fact it is actually how the classroom is set up and how that is incompatible with what we are supposed to be experiencing in real life. In today's episode, we are going to move on to another fallacy that hinders education, that renders education impossible, and that is the narrative fallacy. In fact, in Paulo Freire's words, education is suffering from narration sickness. The teacher talks about reality as if it were motionless, static, compartmentalized, and predictable. Contents which are detached from reality, disconnected from the totality that engendered them and could give them significance. Words are emptied of their concreteness and become hollow, alienated, and alienating verbosity. The outstanding characteristics of this narrative education, then, is the sonority of words, not their transformative power. Let me try to illustrate this narrative fallacy by looking at the following slides. What you see here is probably an illustration of real-life observation, where there are many letters in different fonts, in different sizes, in different colors, and they all coexist side by side. What we then try to distill as curriculum from this is that we try to look for patterns, and through the patterns we are trying to make sense of this observation that we are looking at. And therefore you will see here that some of the colors and some of the letters, even some of the characters, are dropped from a research finding. So we are trying to look for patterns here, and we're trying to consolidate, make sense, and we try to make everything neater than we would like to. However, the danger here is that we are decontextualizing the green and the yellow fonts from their original setting. Will they remain as green and yellow if all the other letters came back together? That is a question that we actually do not address when we do this. And the biggest danger of all this is that eventually the green and the yellow, as well as the fancy fonts, are also dropped when we are happy that this is indeed knowledge that we can now print in the textbook. So from decontextualizing, we have now gone into acontextual. There is no more context. What we have is a final distilled wisdom, which we now put in black and white in the textbook, and this is what we are asking our students to consume. By this, I'm not necessarily saying that there is any malice or ill intention on the part of all stakeholders. However, let's take a look at this really interesting video as an illustration once again about the entire curriculum development process. As you can see, The expert practitioner is trying to describe in a sense, but in this case, of course, we are looking at a drawing. But the expert practitioner is trying to reproduce his or her expert practice. You can see that the curriculum developer has been trying his best to reproduce that expert practice. However, he's able to grasp some parts of it, some items of it, but he's not able to grasp some of the other nuances behind that expert practice. And so, in order to compensate for those gaps, he's filling it in with his own experience, and therefore you can find that the expert practitioner's drawing and the curriculum developer's drawing starts to deviate, although the strokes are very similar. All right, and the unfortunate thing is that if the lecturer is not the only if the lecturer is not the developer himself, you have one more layer of interpretation, and this is where we end up with the lecturer taking the curriculum in an entirely different direction, leading to students not learning the actual expert practice despite the best intentions of the expert practitioner, the curriculum developer, as well as the lecturer. And there we have it. That's the narrative fallacy in education, rendering it impossible. Such a narrative fallacy is deeply embedded within formal education, and is not something that we will be able to undo very quickly in the near future. A lot needs to be reconsidered, and perhaps it is something that we should begin the process even as we speak. Thank you so much, and I'll see you at the next episode.